Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, hope you're all well. Just to say, I'm actually sat out here at Sweetwater in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I just want to say a huge thank you to Sweetwater for bringing us out here. I'm sat here with a good friend of mine that I've actually only had the pleasure of knowing for a few days now, properly, but I would say he's a great guy. His name's John Dines, and he's the product manager at Origin Effects. Basically why we're here is because I use Origin Effects on my pedal board. As some of you may know if you watch my YouTube channel. Now the two pedals that I like to use mainly would be the RevivalDRIVE Compact, and then it would be the Cali76 Stacked Edition compressor. Mainly for when I'm playing strats and stuff, but what I've actually found is that they've started to work their way into more of the heavier kind of tones that I like. But one thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is how I go about dialing in the tones I do with those pedals, and John is going to give us a little bit more of a technical analysis on how that works and maybe how I can get more out of these pedals. Maybe I'm not using them to their full potential. We'll find out in this video. So I'm sure some of you guys that are watching this video are aware of Origin Effects and the pedals that they make. I personally love them, but it might be worth just letting the viewers know specifically these two pedals, what their kind of specialities are, I guess, and then we can go from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the RevivalDRIVE Compact is the shrunk down version of our RevivalDRIVE pedal. And essentially what it is a complete analog amp recreation. It's meant to recreate all the sounds and feel and playing experience of a proper cranked vintage tube amp. And the RevivalDRIVE Compact you have is just everything that's great about that pedal condensed into a slightly more user-friendly, pedalboard-friendly box.
Nice.
And the Cali76 Stacked Edition is just two of the circuit from our Cali76 compressor smashed together with a whole load of control over both stages of compression that are in the pedal.
Yeah, what's interesting with the Cali76 is that I was looking for a compressor for quite a while, and when I spoke to you guys and was talking about, you know, because I'd heard great things about the Cali76 and wanted to try one, and I'd actually tried, a friend of mine had one, and I thought this is pretty cool, but knowing the kind of styles of compression in guitar tones that I like to get or like to experiment with, I figured I'd want something that went above and beyond, if that makes sense. And one of the descriptions that I was given from you guys was you can get some pretty wacky style compression out of this pedal.
Well, that's the thing. If you do turn everything down to sensible settings, it will cover a lot of the same ground as the normal Cali76 Compact Deluxe. But I've heard some of the stuff you do, and a lot of your tones are larger than life and awesome, and that's just got some extreme settings that I'm not surprised are working really well for you.
Yeah, nice. So I guess the first thing we'll do is start with, I'm going to say the RevivalDRIVE and how I like to use it, because I think the Cali76, well, the Stacked Edition, a little more going on there, it's a little more complex in terms of, especially my understanding of how I've dialed it in. So I think if we go on the RevivalDRIVE first, then I can show you like how I like to dial it in, and then we can work out like, can we get more out of that? So let me give you the kind of sound that I go for normally with gain 1 on the Kraken. So it's kind of like a barky crunch thing, especially with the humbuckers. But what I like to do is then put the RevivalDRIVE in there to kind of thicken it out, give it a little bit more girth, but not necessarily like drastically change the sound. So let me show you. This is just the amp. And now I'm going to throw it on. So to me, it doesn't necessarily sound like loads of gains being thrown in there. For me, it just feels like what I've done is just thickened everything up and made it a little bit less controlled, but almost more powerful. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, yeah. It's the way it looks like you've got it set there, it's just kind of giving you more of your own amp. And I noticed that you've dialed in the highs control a little, which is in the sort of amp circuitry that's simulated inside that pedal. It's like just cranking the mid and treble up on that amp circuit.
Right.
And boosting the lows a little as well. So it's giving you that kind of thickness on the bottom end and a little presence in the top end. And where you've got the more presence control rolled back, you're reducing a little negative feedback, so it helps it transition earlier into overdrive and just kind of make it a bit more ragged around the edges.
Right.
But with the post-drive EQ, you're kind of dialing that back and taming the top end, adding a bit of girth, as you'd call it, to the bottom end, and just kind of keeping everything in check so it doesn't drastically change the character of your amp. What you might want to try is dialing the blend control back a bit to introduce some clean signal.
Okay.
At the same time, it will reduce the gain of the pedal, which it helps even more with clarity. But if the signal drops out a little bit more than you're hoping for, you can always just compensate by turning the gain and the output up.
Okay, well let's try that then. So this is where it's at currently without the pedal engaged. Throw it on with the settings I like to dial in. And if I dial back the blend now, it's probably gonna, I feel like it's probably gonna lose a bit of something, so. So at this point you're saying compensate for that with the gain and the output control?
Yeah.
All right, so. Yeah, that's suddenly like more open, like more like wider sounding.
Yeah, because you've already got that edge of breakup tone. Allowing a little of your guitar signal through kind of props it up a little bit without it being quite so prone to collapsing in on itself, like when you put distortion in front of distortion.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, I like that.
Cool.
So that pretty much wraps up my use for the RevivalDRIVE within this kind of rig. As I said before, when I'm playing like a Strat and something else, I wouldn't say the settings are too dissimilar, but I might bump up, use the presence more than the more side, just so that when I dig in with the Strat, you really hear that kind of grind on the string and the pick attack. But other than that, that's pretty much how I have it set for any application, really. So let's move on to the Cali76 Stacked Edition, because this is one of those pedals that I got it and I was like, I love this. It works, really works for the kind of thing I do. I don't really know what it's doing other than compressing stuff. You know, probably a lot of guitar players are in the same boat as me. Like, I don't really know what it does, but it sounds great. So this is a great opportunity for me to find out and for you to find out.
Well, I noticed that how you've got it set at the moment, the first compression stage is getting hit quite lightly. So the first thing you're doing is really just kind of massaging the signal a little bit and fattening it up slightly. And then with the through control turned up quite high as you've got it, you're hitting the second stage really hard. And you're running quite a fast attack on both. So it's really just boosting that signal a little bit to begin with and giving it a bit less dynamic range, but a bit more sensitivity, if that makes any sense. And then you're just taking that and chopping all the tops off.
So this might be not the most intuitive way to use a pedal by the sounds of it, but what's interesting is this is what I landed on, something that I thought sounded cool to me. So let's have a little listen to see what it sounds like and if we can improve upon that. So I'll give you an example. So this is without it. You know what I'm going to do? Bit of reverb.
Good idea.
So let's throw it on.
Well, you say you were worried about whether you're using it right or not. I can't hear anything wrong with how you're using it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But I suppose the best way to describe what you're doing is you're just kind of conditioning your signal a little bit to prepare it for that next compression stage, which you're hitting hard. You're just giving that second stage something better to work with.
I see.
But there is something else you can try,
Okay.
which is to hit the first stage quite hard, but with a slow attack and a fast release. So that's going to give you more of a kind of snappy, funky sound.
Okay.
And then to take that and set the second stage the opposite way round, with a fast attack and a slow release.
So basically, these bottom three go back to front. So flip it round like that, do something like this, and do something like that.
Crank the input control up a little bit as well.
Here.
And what this is going to do is it's going to give you that funky compressor sound and then take that sound and bring the level of all of it up. This is really good if you play quite dynamically and certainly if you roll back the volume control. Because if you've ever set a compressor in the sort of typical funky settings, as soon as you back off, all the work that the compressor's doing is lost because your peaks aren't exceeding that signal level where they're going to get chopped off and you're going to hear the compressor working. So once you do kind of reduced down below that level, you've still got another compressor working to fatten everything up in a way that really works for kind of softer, more legato passages, like the kind of stuff you've been playing. So
right, okay. Well, let's have a listen. This is without it. Sounds better.
Excellent. I'll tell you what.
It sounds better.
I'll tell you what, try something funky and see if I'm right.
I just want to say, before we do that, I was trying to get it to do that, and that's how I landed on the inner settings. Because for me, what that is, again, no technical spiel here because I couldn't explain myself that way. But what it's doing is it's kind of allowing me to play the exact same way I was doing before, but giving me way more detail and body underneath it.
Yeah, it's just got the real character of a typical compressor, accentuating all the peaks and sort of front end of your note.
Yeah.
And then it's just making sure you hear the sustain and that everything that's left after that stopped having an effect is still really in your face and at the front of the mix.
Yeah, yeah, because the thing I find, the way I had it set before, was sometimes it felt like that thing where your amp's up really loud and you don't want to be annoying anyone with the noise, but you still want to play. That's what it was doing. It was that thing where I'm like, tentatively touching the strings as opposed to wanting to just let loose a bit.
Well, now it's doing the opposite. It's making sure you get heard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you're saying do a little bit of the funky stuff?
I think it'll work really well for that.
Okay, let's try it. Without the reverb, maybe. That's great. That's so good.
What you'll find now,
so much better.
What I'm sure you'll find now is if you do go back to playing those long legato sustained chords, is they'll still have loads of presence and sustain, but you can just dip in and out of that funky sound.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So let's try that. I'm going to put on the reverb and delay, go back into that moody place. That would have been the most random genre kind of song ever, wouldn't it? Going from this like all chilled out to super funk and then back to chilled again. But it demonstrated exactly what you meant.
I think I'd buy that record.
Oh yeah? That was great. Honestly, I can't, you know, I'm glad we got this on camera because I can't thank you enough for that. It's just, I've had a revelation with the pedal that I really enjoyed and now I enjoy it even more.
Well, glad to be able to help out.
Look at that. And on that beautiful note, I just want to say a huge thank you to Sweetwater for having us out here. It's really awesome to be here and do this. I want to say a huge thank you to John for helping me understand more about the gear I choose to use.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, sounds great. So thanks, man.
Awesome.
And also, if you've got any questions about this gear, we'll put it in the description box below. We'll link everything in so you can find out about it. But also, make sure you contact your Sweetwater sales engineer because they will be more than happy to take you through any questions you've got regarding this gear. So make sure you do that. And also, if you like this content and you want to see more, please like, subscribe and share and even hit that little bell notification next to the subscribe button to see more content just like this. And I've been Rabea, he's been John. We'll see you all very soon.